Episode 3576, Break the Silent Assumption.
Moms, it's time to rediscover, rejuvenate, and renew who you are in mind, body, and spirit. Welcome to Create Your Now, Your Best Selfie, the show to help you do just that. Here's your host, certified life coach, personal trainer, and nutritionist, Kristianne Wargo.
Happy day. I hope you're having a fabulous start to a beautiful weekend. I hope the weather is treating you well because I know we've had I would say a few rain days here and there, but you know what? There's nothing like settling in with the one that you love. But you know what? You got to watch it. Break the silent assumption. For those of you who are brand new to Create Your Now, welcome to this incredible family. I'm so delighted of your presence. If you already even had the opportunity, you'll want to head on over to createyournow.com where you can learn more and sign up for the Kisses newsletter. They keep it simple strategy, everyday solutions to live, love, and impact. Well, this episode is brought to you by AIM, Inspiring Connection and Community. You know, in marriage, the assumption that your spouse can effortlessly decipher your thoughts and emotions is a common pitfall. Believe it or not, yes. You think they know all about you, but no. And what can happen is it can unravel even the strongest of relationships. It's time to break the silent assumption. And this silent assumption, this expectation can lead to a host of problems, including miscommunication, unmet expectations, and emotional distance. And the problem is we fall into this mind reading thing of, well, don't you already know? You should have already told me this. My husband and I, we were doing something. Oh my goodness, what were we doing? Oh, we were with the grandbabies. Oh yes. I always have stories with the grandbabies. They're so much fun. Now, I have stories with my children too now, but when they're older, well, sometimes I get a little bit more pushback. And so some of those stories may be X-rated. No, I'm joking. They're not. I have a fabulous family. I'm very, very blessed. They challenge me in the most positive of ways because they stretch me as a mom and as a woman. But, you know, we were out with the kiddos, my hubby and I were, the grandbabies. And we were trying to get stuff done. Oh, I know. We all went together because it was the weekend birthday celebration. So we did the whole October birthday celebration for all kids, whether you were the minis or whether you were actually my kiddos. So we had everybody there and we were trying to get things done. And we went to this bouncy house and it was fabulous. And we were getting out of the vehicle and I was like, well, did you get this? And he goes, well, do you expect me to read your mind? That's what my husband said to me. And I was like, yes, this is not your first rodeo. We've already been through 5. You should have this down pretty pat. And he just looked at me all confuzzled. And I'm like, yeah, truth. Seriously. Okay, that's a pitfall right there, my friend. Yes, it is. I made an assumption. And to a degree, it's not a bad thing. But what happens is you're immediately setting up a wall. And it's a defensive wall on both sides, not just your side or your spouse's side. It's for both of you. And that's where it's like, oh, and if you build up enough of those walls, you know what happens? They don't necessarily get taller, they get thicker. And it's harder to break them down. Mind reading in marriage can lead to feelings of neglect and resentment. So it's essential to communicate openly to avoid these pitfalls. You don't want to have your partner assume that they can read your mind because it sets the stage up for misunderstanding and frustration. And who wants to live amongst that? And then when it comes time to saying, I love you, yet you just had an issue with mind reading, what do you think happens? Well, what happens is you're not communicating openly. And when you want to demonstrate love effectively in your marriage, it becomes marred by assumptions. And that open and candid communication becomes paramount. But if it's not there, what happens? Nothing happens. That's the whole point, right? Love not only thrives on understanding, right, but also on verbalizing desires, needs, and thoughts to bridge any gaps. But if you're not bridging those gaps, what's happening? You're just falling off the edge of glory. That's why you got the pitfalls. And so those cavities that have been building up in your heart because we're human beings and we get hurt, it just adds to it. And the wound becomes larger and larger and larger and larger. And what happens to the love between the two of you? There becomes a distance because you're building up those walls thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. Love is about being vulnerable and transparent. Assuming your spouse knows what you need only builds walls. not bridges. The key is you want to build bridges. That is your kiss to keep it simple strategy. Build bridges. I mean, we already know what it's like to fall off the edge of glory. We already know what it's like to have those pitfalls because we do it naturally every day. We are sinful creatures. We make those mistakes. So we have to be intentional about building the bridges, how we secure things together, how we build it up instead of tearing it down all the time. So what does it look like when it comes to, yes, avoiding the mind reading assumptions? That you really want to break that silent assumption. Number one, you got to practice active communication. You've got to make conscious effort to communicate your thoughts and emotions directly rather than expecting your partner to discern them implicitly. You know, my husband, he was trying to be helpful and everything with the grandbabies. But it would have been a lot easier if I would have said, "Hun, did you do this too?" Instead of saying, "Well, why aren't you doing this?" Do you see the difference? Because then he immediately becomes defensive. And then I become defensive because it's like, come on, this is not your first rodeo here. Grow up already. Okay, now come on, be honest. Where are you in this with your family? Instead of assuming your spouse knows you're upset of something, right? Maybe you've had a stressful day at work. Maybe you had a falling out with someone that you love dearly. Express your feelings by saying, "I've had a tough day today. I could use some support." Don't assume that they're going to know your feelings like, "Oh, her heart is like hurting. I can see it." No, they can't see it. They don't know you that way. Now, you would think that they would know your looks. No, only your kids know the darts out of the eyes, right? That fire-breathing dragon that you can look from afar and they're like, "Oh, no, we're going to die." Not literally, figuratively, that is. But your husband, you're like, "What is it going to take? Come on already." Yeah, forget it. Practice active communication. Express and say, "This is what I need today." Now, if your husband, your spouse, has a problem giving that to you, then that's for another conversation. And we'll leave that for another episode. But break the silent assumption. Practice active communication. Number two, establish clear expectations. Clearly outline your expectations and desires to prevent misunderstandings and unmet needs. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, woe's me," if you haven't told them what you need. Right? The WIIFM that you play all the time, "What's in it for me?" They're not listening to that same radio station. Why? Because they have their own WIIFM that they listen to. So make sure you set those clear expectations. Maybe you're one who says, "You know, hun, if you're running late, would you give me a phone call?" Now, I know some people do everything via text. For me, it's so much faster. Pick up the daggum phone and call me. It's going to take you 10 times longer to send me a text than it is to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, babe, I'm running late, but I'll see you soon." Great. Love you. And guess what? Now I get to hear your voice. If that's you, then make sure you share that with your partner. But again, you've got to establish those clear expectations, because if you do not, you're just building up the walls and you're not building the bridges. And finally, number three, seek clarification. Instead of jumping to conclusions, you're not guilty at all, are you, of this? Yes, you are, because so am I. Instead of jumping into those conclusions or assuming your partner's intentions, ask for clarification when in doubt to foster open dialogue and mutual understanding. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, well, it's stupid," and mumble under your breath. Seek that clarification. What did you mean by that, babe? Where are you going with this? For example, instead of assuming your partner's reason for a certain action, ask them directly. "Can you help me understand why you did that?" Now, don't have that negative tone that says, "Well, why did you do that? You know, you're such an idiot." Okay, that's stretching it the wrong way. We're not talking about that kind of clarification, right? There's no name calling. There's none of that. There's about this genuineness of saying, "You know what? Can you help me understand why you did that? What can I do? How can I serve you better?" By proactively engaging in open and honest conversations, setting those clear boundaries, right? Not building the wall, but building bridges, and seeking that clarity when needed, you as a couple can sidestep the dangers of mind reading assumptions, right? You get to break the silence and cultivate a relationship grounded in trust, respect, and genuine communication. Ask and you will know. Go in peace. Be present. Be incredible. Be you. I love you so very much. I cannot wait to see you on the other side. Blessings, hugs, and lots of love. We'll talk to you real soon. Have a glorious, blessed day. Bye-bye.
Feeling inspired, ready to train for life and love your journey? Visit createyournow.com for more incredible resources to help you along the way. We'll see you next time on Create Your Now, Your Best Selfie. And remember, always be sure you consult your physician before beginning any health and fitness plan.